Well, hello, everybody. Well, how are y'all?
Hola.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to another edition of Paranormal Small Talk. I'm your host, Howard Peter, along with host Scotty Too Hottie, and of course, the listen queen herself, Miss Chrissy Baggett. Uh, Tonight, we are fortunate enough to have Miss Angela Boley on tonight. She's a psychic artist. Um, this is something that's interested me for a long time. Angela actually contacted me about some personal issues, and I'm trying to help her out as best as I can right now. But I asked her to come on and talk about her experiences and how she, uh, how does she see these things and stuff like that. And I thought it'd be an interesting subject to actually talk about. So, yeah. And if you notice, I lost some weight. I'm gonna be proud of this shit.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
But yeah. Um, let's see. We got Ane and Miss Ane Shin. Hey, Ane, love you, babe.
Hi, One.
Hi, Anne.
There's
Hi,
my wife.
Jacqueline.
Hey, Jackie.
That's the
I
better
hate,
half right there.
I hate you, woman. And
Howard, listen.
we got Matt. We got Matt, the paranormal consultant, inside right here. Hey, Matt, how you doing, brother?
Hi. How you
And
doing,
then we
Matt?
have Mr. Stephen Woodard, the owner of Pun
That's the
TV
boss
Paralink,
man.
the
Boss
boss
man.
man
Don't
himself. So
don't
yeah,
don't say nothing bad. Don't say nothing bad. Boss man is on.
we got to. That's our job. We got to make him get more gray hair.
Right. I'm working on it. I ain't lying.
So tonight we got the in this show at 9 o'clock. We have some other things going on tonight, so we won't be running a little bit late like we normally do. So we'll get right into it. Angela, how you doing this evening? And tell
Doing
us a
great.
little bit about yourself.
When I was 5 years old, and I had passed away from an accidental overdose of aspirin. I mistook aspirin for candy, ate every single aspirin in a bottle, rushed to the hospital, was vomiting blood, and the pediatric physician informed my parents that if I didn't get blood right then and there, I was going to die. The nurse left to go get blood, and she came back and said there was no blood. And I went into shock, continued to vomit blood, and went from hot to cold, cold, then hot to cold, and I got really cold. And they laid me on the table, put a blanket over my head, and I actually heard a phone call to the pediatric physician. Had made a phone call. I heard him talk to the parents. I said I called the county coroner to come get the body. I don't know when he's going to get here. It could be minutes. It could be hours. I don't know. And we never had a child this young die in our ER before. So I didn't know what he meant. And after he put the blanket over my head, I got this sensation of going through a tunnel. And that was like full of cobwebs. And then when I got through the cobwebs, I could see the sunbeam of light shining through the ceiling. Now, keep in mind, I still have a blanket over my face, but I could see everything in the room clearly. And I went up to the sunbeam, up through the ceiling, and started floating through the floors, could see all the other beds, all the other patients, and all the other floors. Went up further, up to the roof of the building, so I saw the roof of the building beneath my feet. And I looked at this beautiful bright light I'm heading towards, and I'm wondering, what is that? Am I heading towards the sun? Because my rational mind is still working, and I look over at the sun. The sun looked small, dim, compared to the light I was heading toward. Then I got into that light, and I encountered this most amazing intelligence that's just beyond us, and full of joy, full of this love and absolute perfection of knowledge. And I was in this light, in this perfect joy, and this peace. And a voice emanated from the light that said, "Your body is made out of small structures called cells, and I'm repairing every single one of those, and I'm going to send you right back." So I came back exactly the reverse way that I came. And I went down to the roof, down to the different floors, and I saw my body on the table, and that is what really jarred me, because I could see my own body on the table, separate from me, and that really jarred me. I can't. It was like just like a suit I wore. It wasn't me, but it was me. I'm looking at myself down there, and I lined up with my body, and I heard that voice say, "Get up, get up." get up. On the third get up, I leaped off the table, and the physician came over and he asked permission for my parents to re-examine me. He did. He concluded that not only I was fully recovered, but I was actually healthier than the average child my age. And I'd been dead for 30 minutes. I didn't have any oxygen that time. I had no blood. I had no pulse. I was completely dead. After all, he told my parents the coroner was going to come get me. There wasn't any hope for me. And when I came back with an ability to see into the spirit realm. It was just always open to me. And I started seeing spirits in the house that we went to. And one of the cases I did was one of the earliest ones I started seeing right away. That entity that was coming out of the toilet. I was seeing these shadow beings. They were black, smoky, but they were like blacker than black and had glowing white eyes, and they would come out of the walls and up to the floors and growl at me. I had also seen uh, a little bit later a elderly man that was out in our neighbor's yard adjacent to the cemetery. We were out walking in the cemetery and there was a tornado warning. We were told that a tornado was heading our way. We were going to race home, and on the way home, I see right where the tornado is coming, there's wind, rain's coming. There's this open casket of this man with his hands over his chest like that. He looks almost skeletal, and he had his suit on. His suit, whatever suit he was buried in, looked like it was way too big for him. And I just felt like something otherworldly was opened up, and he was trying to communicate to me. He was trying to warn me that I need to get home. And so afterwards, I thought, that's really strange. Why would you just leave your loved one out there like that in the tornado and leave his casket open? And it really bothered me. And then I did some research. And I actually, at the time, there was no internet. So I contacted the newspapers, and they said there had been no burials, no funerals for the past 3 months prior to that tornado. So there was no actual person out there being buried. That was an apparition. That was in the spirit I was seeing. Eventually I did get to the point where I got tired of not being able to sleep. I was having nightmares when I did sleep because of these entities that were harassing me all the time. One night I was like, I'm just fed up, and I left my room, made sure all the lights were off, and after being so scared of having to be in the dark and leaving the lights on the time, I said I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to turn everything off, and I'm going to go look for them, and I'm going to confront them. So I walked through the house. Again, I'm only not much older than 5. Walking through the house saying, "Come out and face me, monsters! Come out and face me, wherever you are. Come out and face me." And I searched the whole house, didn't find anything until I got to the bathroom. When I got to the bathroom, these entities that I call peekers that were peeking in on me every night, they kind of look like rope with a small head attached, with this wiry head with bright glowing white eyes and teeth that would just peek into me, peek in my room every night. You could see them with the lights on, off, didn't matter. And there were 4 of these things that were standing in the bathtub like fence posts. And I stared right at them for as long as I could, and I screamed and ran off. But I didn't see apparitions after that in that house, because I felt like I stood up to them. But we still had a lot of paranormal activity. I had a radio that at one time turned itself on, and the dial was going up and down. It was spinning by itself. I actually ripped the cord out of the wall, took the radio down the basement, disassembled it. and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we paid money for this thing, because all it is a rubber band on a gear that causes the dial to go up and down. But I couldn't find a reason why it would do it by itself. We had a lot of footsteps. We had one time right in the middle of the afternoon, we had footsteps walking above us in the bedroom, and the TV was off. We didn't have any noise going on because we were having a family meeting, but we were going to go on vacation. And you could hear footsteps start in the middle of the bedroom on the hardware floor, walk towards the entrance of the bedroom, and then flip on the light switch. and you didn't hear any return footsteps. They just flipped on the light switch. And we just froze. We looked up and waited and waited for somebody to come down. Hours passed. Nobody came down. It's like, I have to go to the bathroom sometimes. I'm going to go up there. And found nothing. Um, and later on, I continued to have apparitions and have these visitations, but it didn't dawn on me that I might be psychic. And I thought maybe these were just a lot of paranormal experiences. So maybe it was in my 20s. And I was getting ready to go to college, and I had that break between high school and college. And one day I decided I was going to go for a walk. I went back to grab my jacket, and as I pulled my jacket on the door and shut the closet door, there was a man standing there, as looked as real as you, but he had been basically turned inside out. He was skinned. I mean, I've never seen anybody skinned like that, down to the bone. His eyes were still intact. It was the gorgeous thing I've ever seen, and there was blood, I mean, pooling on the floor, and this is carpet. And when I looked down, he had stonewashed jeans, high top tennis shoes. The high top tennis shoes were glowing like they were lit up. And at first I thought, this is somebody who really needs my help. Oh, he's beyond help. Something else is going on. And he started talking to me, but he was talking in my head, even though the motion of his jaw was going. And I hear him say, man, I should have been like you. Said I smoked my weight in weed all through high school. Man, I got a factory job, and I got sucked through the machines on the first day of the job. And he was so clear that he needed that opportunity to speak with me. He somehow sensed me going by his place where he had died. And he was picking me up, and he said he had this limited window of opportunity, and he was going to take it to talk to me. And he told me the exact location. And I kept all the information in mind, but I could also feel myself going into shock, because I've been in shock before. I know what that's like. I could feel myself just turn ice cold. It's just like, it just feels like your blood's turning cold, like icy. And I said, okay, I'm going to do my best. I don't know how I'm going to help. I'll do my best, but but I need to walk away right now. So I stepped out the house, and first thing Dad says to me, you look like you've seen a ghost. You have no color in your face. I didn't say anything, but the man didn't come back, but I did do some research. And when I did, I researched that property that he gave me the exact location of. In the year 1979, which is the same year I passed, he was sucked through a machine. They reported 18-year-old male was sucked through the machines. It was a food factory. He was actually sucked through the conveyor belt system. And that's why he looked like that. And then I realized, okay, this is not something normal. This is something about me that's able to experience apparitions this way. And then eventually even Jesus himself revealed himself to me and said, showing up in a dream, in a vision, with tattoos of love on both his knuckles. And as a biker, of all things, a biker riding a Harley, it tattoos Alpha and Omega on one shoulder, and then it was born to die and raised from the dead on the other. And he said, before you were born, I knew you. And he looked at me with such love, and he explained to me he had given me this gift. And he says it was the reasons why the demons were attacking me so much, even at a young age, is because they wanted control of that gift. But he had given it to me, and he controls it. So I've been applying it as a psychic artist. As when I see spirits in a location, which I can do remote viewing, I can even put my hands over a photograph and pick up entities that way over the photograph of a haunted location. And I see spirits all the time, and I will paint portraits of what I'm seeing and relay what I'm hearing as I'm painting that portrait. And I will also put in symbols or anything they want to show me into that painting as well.
We got actual pictures. I don't know where I had Chrissy's at. Chrissy!
She may have to go. She might have went poo.
They make boom boom.
Right? That's what I'm thinking. Boom boom. And listening to.
Sorry, I had a phone call from my kid.
Oh. We thought you went to go take a crap or something.
Yeah, you went poo poo.
What pictures did you need?
Let's see. First, you was talking about the demon that was coming out of the toilet, correct?
Right.
And that's a sulak. We were just talking about that. So we want to show that picture, and then the motorcycle Is that the picture you was talking about, Angela?
But
With the
that one is actually a spirit guide painting. That's a painting of that's an example of what of when I do readings for people and I see people's family members around them or spirit guides around them. That's the type of thing I would paint. So I gave this an example. So it's not Jesus is not in there, but in that painting. But it's basically this one woman's had a few spirit guides, and they were all male, and they were all different. And one of them was very proud of his bike, so it's included in there. But yes, that was the thing that scared me so badly. I mean, as a child, I was visiting my cousin's house, and we were actually in the basement playing, and we had a toy phone that it didn't operate on batteries. It had a clapper that was attached to wheels on the bottom of the phone, and it had a little receiver and everything. We kept feeling this oppressive presence that got heavier and heavier and heavier. And to the point where we're looking around to see if there was anybody actually physically there. Neither of us saw anything, but the phone started to ring on its own. This scared my cousin. He ran out of the basement. And I turned to the presence and say, "You're not going to scare me. I'm 5 years old. I'm a big girl now. You're not going to make me scream." And I calmly left the basement. And then I decided I'm going to use the bathroom. It's another second set of stairs. I went up the second set of stairs to use the bathroom. And just when I get to the bathroom door, this thing emerges out of the toilet with glowing white eyes, glowing sharp teeth, as black, misty thing, but you can't see through the blackness. And it growled. And it growled so deeply, it scared me. And I ran out of that house and into the street, right into traffic. And Dad had to rescue me from being hit in the car.
That painting, that drawing is so detailed. I mean, it is that is a scary drawing right there. And yeah, at 5 years old, I listen. I peed when I had to go upstairs. I peed my pants to go upstairs. Right after I watched A Creature from a Black Lagoon, I had to pee. They're like, "Go upstairs." I'm like, "No, I'm gonna pee my pants. I ain't going up there. Forget you." And you're like, "Hey, you ain't scaring me." No, that's not me. But that is so detailed. That would scare me. Absolutely.
That's, and I didn't anticipate that. I thought I'd faced it and walked away from it. And then there it was emerging out of the toilet, that one it scared me so bad it almost got me killed, running out in the traffic. Fortunately, I learned to stand up to them. I learned to, with Jesus' help, because he kept coming to me in dreams and teaching me how to use my gifts, but also teaching me how to set a boundary so I'm not overwhelmed. Because I would do things like, hey, I was finding hard to find a normal life because I would get in my car to drive to school, to college, and then see somebody in my back seat, like a woman, badly injured or had been badly bludgeoned to death, and she's in my back seat. I look back there, she's not there, but I still see her. It's like she's there and she's not there, and it's and you look at the mirror, she's not in the mirror. You look back, she's there, and then but you look forward, she's not. And it was just all the time, and that some of them would be horrific. Women that have, men and women both have died horrific deaths. They kept coming to me asking for help, and it's like I can't get any peace here. And he says, "Look, you can set boundaries. You can say, don't come to me at this time. I need to live my life. You're welcome to come to me in my dreams. You're welcome to come to me here." Because I'd had experiences where I'd woken up and broad daylight, okay, great afternoon. I think this is going to be a great day. And then standing at the foot of my bed was this man who was just wearing pants, but you could tell that he'd been tortured. And he was wearing military boots, combat boots, but I think were from the Korean War era. Because they were kind of up to his knees.
I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back and show that one picture that we have that you sent us. That was the one on the motorcycle. And you have, I guess, 3 spirits just standing next to it. Here it is, right here.
Yeah, this is an example of some things. When I do personal readings with people and I see spirits around people, I will paint the spirits that I'm seeing. A lot of times they're family members, sometimes they're not. but simply spirit guides. They're angels, also they're animal spirit guides as well. And this, all three of these men were around this woman as her guides, and one of them was a Winchester rifle um, special, like he was a gunsmith. And we have a rancher, and then you have the person on the end that was more of a, he liked to build bikes. I mean, that was his main thing, is it was his bike. So tinkering his bike. So that was awesome. And I know that when I do readings, I really, I'm just so surprised and so, that I'm so blessed with this gift. Like I had a man sit down with me, and he was, he didn't even tell me anything. And I started getting impressions of his dad, and I started doing a portrait of who I was seeing. And I was telling him, I said, I know your dad was a mechanic, and he's telling me to tell you that in order to learn more about your trade, you need to tear down engines more, and you start tearing them down more. And he laughed. He says, that's exactly what my dad would say. And I kept getting the impression of this older car that they had both shared. So I showed him the portrait, and I turned it and held it up to him. He says, oh my gosh, that's my dad. You drew a portrait of my dad. And then he lifted up the sleeve on his shirt, and there was the car that I was seeing, that they had both restored. So, I mean, this is a wonderful gift that he's chosen to give me. It's a way for people to reestablish, or that bond of love. It doesn't go away. Our loved ones are always with us. We have the bond of love of the angels. We have spirit guides who are also sharing that love. And then we also the dark entities that don't want us to do that. I was physically attacked by one of those entities, and that was one of the ones I had sent you on, or sent you a painting on that I had did of him, where I was using my ability to try to help kids in particular. And I was using my ability to try to fight or take away the spiritual entities' power that were negative, that were feeding off of these kids and off of the experiences they were going through. And while I was doing that, and I was prayed, I'd done my work, and I was heading for bed, I hadn't gone to sleep, nowhere near sleep, and my bed got picked up and dropped. I was punched from under the bed, from under the mattress. I was punched in the ribs, and there was this tremendous hissing in the corner of my room, and that sounded like, the biggest cat you ever heard. And I said the Hail Mary, and I felt a female presence come behind me, and I heard her say something, and it was something like "nah-uh" or "nah-uh-uh," something to that effect. And I felt this thing rush out. And when I fell asleep, this entity started to try to continue to attack me in my dreams. He tried to drag me off, tried to intimidate me, but every time he would try to do something to me, I would call him a loser. I said, that's the ultimate truth. You're a loser. You're a loser. And he got weaker and weaker and weaker, and eventually had to give up and leave. But he had even introduced himself by name. And I had another paranormal investigator, when I showed him what attacked me, he says, I recognize that entity. And when I brought it brought it with me to various paranormal events, other people would say, yes, we've seen something very similar to that where we live. And it was always something associated with children going through some very hard times. And it would show up there whenever children were in danger. It seems as something that it liked. That's... I run into those things every once in a while, but I felt like I lost all fear after that. It's not that I had a lot of fear before, but I never had anything physically pick me up and then punch me in the ribs so hard that my ribs hurt for 3 months. I had, I've done martial arts, and I know what the bruised ribs feel like, but I had bruised ribs for a few months.
I'm looking at this drawing, and I'm just strange like this, but the guy on the end with the top hat, fedora, or whatever, early 1900s, kind of reminds me of H.H. Holmes, if you know who that is.
Yes, I'm familiar with him.
Yeah, it's so uncanny.
Yeah, because that looks like your motorbike, huh, Scott?
Well, no, because mine don't have the Harley Davidson seat, or they call it like a Mustang seat. So
Right.
I'm the only one that can ride on mine. But no, mine is an 883 1995 Evo, and I do have the eight hangers, which if you don't know what eight hangers are, they're the handlebars that are high.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I have, which is really funny. People say because you see a 5 foot one guy on this Harley Davidson with eight hangers just going down the road. It's a sight to behold. But yeah, that's a beautiful drawing. I mean, it really is.
Thank you. And I wanted to let her know who's with her. Absolutely, who her guides were. So this woman had a lot of strong male spirit guides around her, protecting her and looking out for her, which is great. Absolutely.
And I'm sure when you do this for people, uh, I would want to say it gives them a sense of relief to know that there are these spirits that are watching over them and whatnot. Even if it's, especially if it's like a family member or whatever, that has got to be a great feeling. I think all of us uh, at one point in time want to know if we got family members watching over us because I
Yes.
think we want to, like I would love right now to know if my dad was watching over me and my cousin Katie and my grandpa and but at the same time I don't want them watching over me because then they're going to be doing, what is he doing? Oh my God, what is he doing? I'm going to kill him when he gets up here. I'm going to kill him again, you know. And so yeah, but yeah, that's really awesome that you can do this for people. It's very awesome.
Now, this next picture we have that I'm gonna pull up, and Chrissy sent it up. I seen this picture and it kind of give me the chills. Now, if I was sitting down and looking out of my window and I saw this looking out of my window, I would just kind of like say, like what you said, Scotty, piss your pants. Yeah, I would do the same thing. I would just sit down there, get a 5 gallon bucket because it's going to be raining. Uh, this is what this picture is, and that kind of freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah, these are some of based on the nightmares I was having as a kid, and but they were more than nightmares. I realized that they were psychic dreams because as a child, I realized, even though I didn't understand the word psychic or didn't understand the concept, I understood that what was actually happening was that spirits were trying to get into my mind. They weren't just trying to, it wasn't just a dream of them trying to get in through a window or looking in on me. I realized suddenly, I just came consciously aware, okay, these are actual spirits who want into my mind to talk to me and to present themselves to me. So that is the kind of thing that I would endure as a child all the time. You'd have these, entities. You have other entities, spirits, human spirits, trying to communicate or trying to get in, and a lot of them would be in really bad shape and crying out for help and creepy and just awful. And then you'd have the demonic on top of that as well. So it wasn't pleasant to come back with his gifts, but it worked out ultimately for the good of everyone, including myself. Because ultimately I found healing and comfort through that because I had other guys that were coming in to help me cope with this. I have a spirit guide that's an animal, a golden eagle that started helping me when I was a child, and another an owl, and I have the Archangel Gabriel. He introduced himself to me and was helping me, and he was holding these dark forces back and limiting what they could do. That's that was amazing. That was amazing that I'm being loved so much that somebody would do that for me. That's to send somebody like Gabriel. And I at the time I didn't think angels were real until Gabriel introduced himself. Okay, I believe. And then later on, Jesus showed up in himself, and it's just you realize the love there, and you realize there's a higher purpose, and there's a reason why it's put me in this predicament, this situation. It helps me, especially if somebody is developing their psychic abilities or they have a child. who is psychic and they're going through similar distress, especially if I've worked on cases where young children are in this predicament, and being able to help the child cope and the parents cope. And my heart goes out to them because I didn't have a parental support system at the
Right.
time that believed in spirits. They just didn't believe me. I would tell them and they would not believe me.
And back then they didn't have a lot of support systems out there, but now it seems like they have some, because I mean, the ones who actually experience these sightings or viewings or whatever you want to call it, uh, they're the ones who actually took up the lance, and and they're the ones who's actually doing something now,
Yes.
which is a good thing. So
Yes.
that's much appreciated. This next picture, I thought of Chad Candy when I saw it. Uh, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's just, damn, they must be holding hands in the bathroom. What the hell they doing? Um, this next picture I saw, and Chad, yeah, I thought of you, brother. And here it is. This is this picture here. I thought of you, Chad. It kind of looks like you if you had a little more hair on top. The long fingers, yeah, that's Chad.
That's the thing that attacked me. And I did that portrait basically exactly the way I saw him, the way he presented himself. And interesting enough, I have a doll. It's about 200 years old that has a demonic attachment to it. That I put crystals around, and she can't do anything. But at the time, I had her in storage. And when I was working on the portrait, the entity was attached to the doll started growling at this painting that I was doing. Like she recognized him as another demon, like another demon that she recognized or that she knew or was familiar with and was in competition with. And when I set the painting out to dry, it was actually scratching. I could hear the scraping against the painting. And I went over to her and I called her by name. I'm like, you need to stop this. You can't do this. You're not allowed to do that. And I put crystals around her, put her away, like, you can't do this. And came to the stop, which that experience with her is a whole other story. but that particular entity with the one attached to the doll, but this is the one that actually physically attacked me, that picked up my bed, punched me, was hissing in my room, was a very physical presence. Where the one attached to the doll, she can do a little bit of that. She's turned my cell phone to static, like a snowy television. She's grabbed my throat and has moved objects around, and she tries to violently enter your mind and tries to instill a lot of terror and give you images and things. And I just I'm a pro at this now. I'm just gonna take love and I'm just gonna throw it at you. And she couldn't handle that, and that was just like she was like a deer in headlights, like, stop. She couldn't handle that, and it made her back off. And I learned, if you put just any crystals, doesn't matter what they are, they could be selenite, they could be quartz, whatever, around the doll, and she's not active. It's just like what these crystals like drain away her ability to act out. Now, and it was interesting with him that in the dream that where he was continuing to attack me and trying to drag me off, trying to be big and scary, there were crystals that were sitting nearby, and the crystals were talking and saying, we can help. We can help. You can use us to keep things like this away from you. And I happen to have those crystals. And, I called it loser, but I realized the crystals were like conscious entities. There were other beings coming in saying, hey, we can help. My spirit guides showing up in dreams like, yeah, let us at him. We'll take care of this. And ultimately, all I had to do was keep calling him a loser repeatedly, because that was the ultimate truth about him, is that, no, you didn't win that fight in heaven. You lost. That's why you're down here. That's why you got thrown out. So you lost. You're a loser. You're a loser.
It's quite amazing. While we're at this point right here, I think Chrissy had to go take care of something like this. Just messaged me. Let me ask you something. Do you sell any of these paintings, or what do you do with them?
Yes, I do sell my artwork. My readings are free, but the paintings are not. So I do sell paintings. Some of my paintings have sold for, I've had a collector purchase a few of my larger paintings, and he had me do commissioned artwork. But when I'm doing one-on-one readings, then I just charge a flat fee. If it's taking something that's a little bit longer, it's going to be a little bit higher money because I'm taking more time to add more detail and more quality into it. It's just when I'm at a place like Mystics and Marvels in Columbus, like a psychic fair, I will get the 15-minute session because I can complete a portrait in about 15 minutes and go over the whole thing. I can do Reiki or Reiki, I guess would be the correct pronunciation. Do Reiki energy work as well, and 15 minutes and flat fee, and on to the next. Where if you want something more involved, you want a longer session, maybe do something over Zoom. I can even work with a photograph that you send me, and I can connect with you that way, and I can do a larger painting that has more details, more information on it, and then ship it to you. And that I've been doing a lot of art. In fact, I've been selling paintings about almost every week since in June and July.
So, like the paintings we've been seeing, those are already like gone. Those are for people that you've done readings for and stuff like that, and they sold.
Well, the ones that we're showing now, they haven't sold anything like that. Those ones, they're because they're bigger and they're more pricier because they're larger and they're more higher quality. I think the one, the black and white one, that entity, that one I called the drop. That it's about as tall as I am. It's big and so it's more expensive. So not everybody can afford it, but if it's something that somebody wants, absolutely they can have it. And as well as the other paintings, and they're all different. They're different sizes, and they kind of go off the size of the painting and how much time I put into it, what it's priced at.
And Steven, who's the boss of the network, he's asking. He's got 3 questions. He has a series of questions.
Mm-hmm.
2 of them you've already answered. Where Chad, he asked, "Do you draw these?" And yes, you do. Do you sell these? And yes, she does. And do the actual pictures have attachments? That's the next question.
No, they don't have attachments. The one that I did, another one I showed you, spirit painting one of the otter, the spirit guide, the animal guide. That particular spirit guide asked me to charge the painting with Reiki energy for him, because the intent of that spirit guide was for him to meditate on that image, and when he would connect with the spirit guide would help him develop his own clairvoyance. So there's an energy attachment there, but it's Reiki charge, which is universal life force of healing. But none of them have actual entities attached.
Okay. I see Beth in there. Happy birthday, Beth. That's Para Thug. She's a close friend and paranormal sister, and we love Beth to death. So I just wanted to make sure we give a shout out to Beth. As a matter of fact, I sent her a poster today. So happy birthday, Beth.
Happy birthday, Beth.
So with these the next question would be, so you actually do these readings, and then what you see is what you draw.
Yes.
When you do the reading.
Right.
So the readings are free, and then you can the painting is what you pay for.
Right, exactly. I do the painting, and that's what I'm charging. I'm not charging for readings, I'm charging for the painting. And I will also have help paranormal groups, because I can do remote viewing and see entities at a location as well. And I've done that before, and that turns out to be interesting because they don't tell me anything ahead of time, and I don't have to. I just need to know where it is. Where am I going? And I get there astrally and see what's there. I was on a series called Unexplained Cases Live, where you could actually see me do that, because they would not introduce me, tell me ahead of time the location. And while another medium was reading that location, I was doing my own. And then at the end of the show, you get to see what I picked up there. And I would hold up the painting, and some incredible, interesting artwork came out of that. Because, like, for example, one of them was a funeral home, and the painting, person that picked up, a spirit I picked up from that, one of the most memorable ones because he was in a formal dress, but like a funeral home worker from maybe quite some time ago. No head though. He was headless, and he just had these blue flames coming out of his neck. That's what I was seeing. I'm like, okay, I'm going to paint what I'm seeing. Another one I did was we did a remote viewing of a mansion in California that belonged to a gangster. Of course, I know nothing about this history, but the gangster's wife was very present there. And I also picked up a guy that was walking around that property, and that was still the lookout guy. And I got, his hat, what he looked like, and I painted that. I held it up, and it said, "Yeah, everybody's seen that guy. He walks around there a lot." I got validation for everything, pretty much everything that I had done for that doing the remote viewing.
He's
Now,
back.
Sorry,
besides,
child issues.
no, you're good. You take care of you, sis. So, besides the, what'd you call that, Howard? A Sulak?
Sulak. That's what I was going to tell you. How big is that picture, that Sulak? I don't want to cut you short, Scotty, but how big is that thing?
That's about 11, I think about 11 by 16 for the actual drawing, but then I'm going to have to put it in a mat, mat it on mounting board and have a mat cut out. That's going to be a larger, and so they can be dropped into a frame. Because that one is not on a stretched canvas, it's on a loose canvas. So I have to put it on a mounting board and put it into a
I might talk to you about that one. I might want that one. I don't know. I'm gonna think about it.
Now, how long does it normally take you to draw these? I mean, I know when you get that vision and you're trying to keep it fresh to get it done, it takes weeks? I'm just curious as to how long.
It depends. Sometimes it depends on the size of the painting and so forth. Sometimes, like for that one for Le Drap, I think that took about 3 weeks to finish, from start to finish. But it was so vivid in my head. I felt like I know every detail of this person, this entity. I'm going to keep going with that. Some of them are maybe 3 or 4 days, and some of them may just be a few hours. It really depends on the size and scale that I'm doing, and the level of detail and how much time the person would like me to take and invest into what I'm picking up. How much information they really need or want in that case.
Right on. So, like I said, besides the Sulak, have you ever went to draw something and was just like, you know what, I don't know if I can do this, where it just puts that fear inside of you, like, man, I don't know if I can do this one.
Well, I haven't had that yet. I've always felt like a challenge, like, okay, so this entity attacked me. Well, you know what? I'm going to expose you, and I'm going to paint a portrait of you, and you're going to be like my trophy on the wall because I faced you, and you didn't win. So you're on the trophy room.
Could that in and of itself cause an attachment to the paintings, though?
No, I haven't had attachments to any of the paintings. I haven't had anything that's paranormal emanating from the paintings themselves. I did charge a painting with Reiki, which is universal healing life energy, which you can charge objects with that.
Right.
But no, people, when they're after they review my paintings, they'll say it feels powerful to them, that what's being communicated is very clear, because it's it's very visual and it hits you right away. I mean, especially with the use of color that I use. And you see, I use color in a way that strikes emotional chord with people, but it's also the actual colors I'm seeing. So sometimes those entities will pick certain colors and tell me a certain color combination to put in certain symbols in to communicate themselves, or to even help a person who, if it's a relative, kind of recognize where they are in the family tree. So they might show something like an occupation that they did. They might show a house that they lived in. They might show different things like that. And and a lot of times they'll show flowers too, like a specific flower that has a symbolic meaning to it, like a rose compared to a carnation have different meanings. for people.
Sure. No, I get that. So have you ever, I know you have seen bad things and negative things. So while doing a reading, have you come across that?
I have, and there's a couple of times I did come across that where the one-on-one readings, doing the psychic fairs, where this another psychic who was just learning her abilities and learning how to apply them,
Mm-hmm.
had helped someone else who had this attachment. It didn't like that she helped this other person, and it attacked her. So I did a painting of it, and she had a friend there with her. And I said, with your permission, can I say this prayer and just open the doorway to heaven? Because I will say a prayer to open the doorway to heaven to help souls cross over. I say that prayer to open the doorway to heaven if we need to get rid of something. And she said yes. So I just said a prayer. I asked, Holy Mary, Mother God, please open the doorway to heaven and bring the light of heaven down like a waterfall over her. And we just felt this rush of energy go through
Do
us.
we have that picture?
I don't think you have that one, because that one she bought and paid for, and I handed it there too, right at the psychic fair. So I don't think I have that one. But there's one on my Facebook page that was somewhat similar to it. That was sort of waiting in the wings for a vulnerability for this priest, and he said this thing attacked his wife, and I picked up on it before he came on to. On the show that I was on, Unexplained Cases Live, and because I would do like kind of connect with people's photographs, and then I would do whatever I saw around them, and this thing was around him, and this thing, he said it attacked his wife, and it almost killed his wife, and he did some very intense praying. He started praying at the back of the church and just on his knees going forward towards the altar, and this thing was driven back, but it was sort of looking for a vulnerability, and I did a portrait of that. But it was similar in the sense that it was very spiky looking. It had like a very spiky quality to its face and its skin, and it was toothy. It's almost like it had many horns, like it wanted to stab at heaven. So you got all these crazy horns going everywhere that kind of look spiky. And there's something similar to it on my Facebook page that I did in chalk pastel. You could view there.
Sure.
Now this next photo, I call it Happy Easter. Rabbit on roids.
Howard. Can't.
I think of Easter when I see it. I'm sorry.
I don't know Easter eggs from that one. I'm just saying.
Badass eggs, wouldn't it?
Right?
This one was Unexplained Cases Live, so if you want to go back and look at that episode, you can. But this was basically like, this thing was under this woman's house, and it had insect-like qualities. It was a negative entity. It was a dark entity, and it just loved to create as much chaos and destruction as it could. And it was because it had these cycles of like going into dormancy and activity, sort of like a locust might have a period of activity and go into dormancy as it's developing. This thing kind of did the same thing. So it had taken on this very insect quality to it. So you see it has the antennas. It has kind of like the build of some insects have, where you have this sort of strange looking almost thorax parts, and the legs kind of remind me a little bit of a cricket. And and it was a nasty entity. I would call that more like an elemental type of entity. It was really like under the ground. It just lived under the ground. It was an odd thing.
Yeah, because it looks like he's got chicken legs, and it's got rabbit head, and it looks like frog. The body of a frog almost.
Yeah, it had a strange mix of things. But the main thing I kept getting was the impression of insect-like, like a cicada.
Yeah, the body, as far as like chest down to the thighs, It's almost in the shape of a butterfly,
Right.
almost
Right.
like a moth. I can't think of it. The moth from Mothman prophecies. It's got the skull. Can't remember the name of it, but kind of reminds me of something a little bit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think, do you remember, is that, I think that's the last of the photos you had sent us.
You
There.
got there's some other ones. They got
Yeah.
another one that's a red man looking. Uh, what is
This.
it
Yeah.
called?
Those entities. Yeah. Is the one that's all red. That painting.
Okay, let me look.
Is that I posted that and somebody said that was just genuinely the scariest thing they've ever seen.
And it's not the one that looks like a clown type deal, right?
It
Mm,
looks like a man, but it's red. I just don't understand. He's just completely red.
it's a
And you got another.
skeletal looking figure, but in red.
And they got another one. You
This,
got another
this
one
is,
that's skeletal with another one with a
I
skeleton behind it with a derby.
Yeah, I got that one. So let me go ahead and share that one.
there's one that has a city background. It's very red, and there's like these skeletal figures at the front of it too.
Okay. There's one, Howard.
See, I don't know if you got this one. That's it. I think that's the one you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, this one was actually attached to a paranormal investigator, her and her buddy from a cemetery, and this woman is just nasty. I mean, the woman is in the foreground. She hails from maybe the late 1800s, and she's very manipulative, very controlling, and she has her little partner in crime behind her with the hat on. That when in life, how he had died, that there was a shipment of black powder, and he worked on the ship, and that black powder blew up. So he lost an arm, had damage to his leg, damage to his head, so he couldn't walk. So he's confined confined essentially to a homemade wheelchair for the rest of his life with brain damage. But he likes to be chaotic. He will actually have the ability in his spirit state to go out and just create this whirling motion of chaos around you. And he was causing all sorts of interference and electronic devices and things. And I explained what he does is that she is using him to as kind of a wedge to get into his life, create that chaos, so that he's distracted. She could take over, take control of things. And he said, yeah, he got the sensation of something going around him very, very quickly, like rolling around him. And I had to help send them both back to the cemetery that they had come from, so that they wouldn't be attached to him and try to do harm in his life. That was that's one of those paintings, and there's another one there that's all red. With it looks like a cityscape in the background, and there are entities. These are demonic entities that were kind of bragging on themselves, saying, "Hey, they live off these negative emotions, and now these negative emotions have reached such a point that we're kind of everywhere, and we want to be seen." So that's another one of those ones. One of the other paintings I showed you, or should be there. I don't know if you're able to see it or
Yeah,
not.
Howard, share that.
Which one? Oh, that
The
one.
one that I just posted.
Now this one is an angel who helps me whenever I'm doing any type of healing work, through Reiki or energy, or even doing a prayer for somebody, or reaching out. And he is an angel, but he's made of fire. He said he's made of fire because that represents the passion of God's love for us. So that's how he appears to me. Because he's got like a mantle of mercy. That blue robe is like the symbol of mercy, and then he's got the passion of God in the form of fire. So, I mean,
That's a That's a really good painting. I do like that one.
Thank you. And he's always around me.
Okay. Let me look here. I don't know that you spoke about this one, but I'm gonna go ahead. I know it's one you sent. Let's see.
Oh, sorry.
We got the birthday girl in here now.
Yeah, we do.
I just want to go on record that 49 sucks already.
Ah, there you go, Howard.
I'm right behind you, baby doll.
Yeah, this is of a painting of one of the peekers that I was 5 years old that would peek in on me. It didn't matter if the lights were on or off. That's what they looked like when they were looking in on me. They just would come in the bedroom doorway, and it was like it was like almost like their bodies were on the end of a pole. It was like somebody sticking a pole with a head on it into your room, and that's kind of what they looked like. They had this wiry bodies. It looked like they were made of coiled black rope or wires that were really stiff, very black, glowing white eyes and lots of teeth, and then kind of a wiry thing going on either side of the head that were almost horde-like.
Chad, that might look like you, Chad.
I wasn't laughing at you, Angela. I was laughing at somebody changed my name.
Oh no!
I'm Minnie Beth.
All day, every day.
Oh shoot! I can't.
You can
That
sing to
almost-
me tomorrow, Eileen.
Yeah, she wants to sing.
Okay. So Howard, have you sent any more photos? Because I'm not seeing. Well, wait. Yep.
There was a group of 4 that I sent together.
Yeah, I got that one. I got this one here. Let's see.
Stop. Share.
Chad, you can sing on Friday night on Unholy Trinity and dedicate it to me.
Bullshit. Nope.
I mean, Scotty, you're doing pole dancing, so I just figured you needed somebody
Yeah,
to sing
you're right.
while you pole dance.
You know what? Valid point. I'll even jump in and help sing.
I do have a question. Of course, I've been getting kicked in and out, and I made it on the show late. But I was just curious. Did you ever work with any priest or anyone from the church during, some of the things that you had going on?
And as a child, no. As an adult, and I actually became Catholic, I had a priest tell me that there were demons that were from childhood that were still trying to attach themselves to me. And he said the minor exorcism when you get initiated Catholic Church would take care of that. Because I already had my baptism and these things were weak anyway and were always getting weaker. And that was just the minor exorcism when you say, I renounce Satan in all his ways, and you say yes, and then they do the christening. That was it for them, and they had to leave.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering if you ever had any counsel from, anyone during, adulthood, because, as a child, it's half the time nobody believes us anyway, so.
Now, not as an adult, I don't have any counsel. I rely on my guides because Jesus came through, Holy Mary Mother came through,
Excuse me.
Girl came through, and were helping me. And every time they do, it's just like I've got so much peace, and they give me so much hope and so much comfort.
Understood. Thank you for answering my question.
This is another one that you sent me. I think I had the one you was talking about. It was all in red. I think I sent it to you, Chrissy, but we'll do this one. Beside the red dude. This one here.
Oh, that's a different
Aw.
one. But it's still go and talk one. This is animal guides, animal spirit guide painting, and it's like animal spirits are around us. They act in almost like angels, and they're guiding us in our spiritual path. And this, for the person I did, this was his spirit guide came through as an otter, and the otter was telling me he's developing these skills within him. This person I had first initially painted a fox, and the fox came to him and helped him develop clairaudience, which he developed very quickly. And then this otter came along and said, I'm going to help him with his clairvoyant skills. And he needed me to paint a portrait of him, and he showed me exactly the painting that he wanted. He was very specific. So he's meditating underwater. So anytime the person or read for is meditating, it's going to be looking like the otter's meditating with him, because the otter's underwater. He's got his paws up, he's kind of floating there. And you see the bubbles from the underwater, but you also see the lotus as a symbol. It's a very universal symbol for meditation. And we have the atom, the symbol for the atom on the top left corner. You know, the cohesion of all reality there being symbolized. So he has that now, and he says he is developing clairvoyance a little bit at a time.
My spirit animal is a rabbit raccoon.
Mine's a skunk. I'm telling you, it's a skunk.
All right, there you go, Howard.
Yeah, here we go. This was a weird picture, I thought.
Yeah, that's the one I was telling you about. And some people see echoes of 911 in it. But
like end of days almost.
It's got a kind of an apocalyptic type feel. And these entities appeared to me and were very insistent. They weren't going to attack me, but they were very insistent that I at least paint their portraits, because they were bragging. They said because of the increase, not only in the political and social divisions that we're having in this country, it's increasing the amount of people's hatred and negativity, and it's empowering these things. And now they're bragging on themselves, like, we want to be seen because we're being empowered, because people are so into hating each other and, you know, being angry and hurtful, and it's something that they live for. And that kind of suffering, not only that, but the depression that's overtaking from the hard times, it's something they live for as well. They can manipulate that energy. So, and I painted this and I posted this. I said, this is a reminder to be reasons why you should be kind to each other and work on forgiveness and work on your positivity every day, because you don't want to empower any things like that. And especially when you see these things running around in the way I see them, you don't want to have to be able to see them, and you don't want to give them any more power or presence than they already have. You want to do the opposite and take that away from them.
It's a weird picture, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Almost, it looks like it's, I don't know, you can see that's evil. I mean, looks like it's true evil in its face.
And their
legs. A lot of detail.
The limbs are really elongated.
Fingers and toes, yeah, I can see that.
And then they have backwards, and notice that their knees are backwards, where our knees are forwards, and our legs, they're backwards on the back legs, and then they're on fours, but yet they have a humanoid quality. It's almost like humanoid and non-humanoid are twisted together somehow.
Chad, I can't with you today, boy. I just can't.
That's when I posted. It's like, this is one of the things, and even with the one that was in black and white, the entity that had the long limbs, other people were saying they'd seen him, and other people sent messages to me that they've seen things like this out walking around.
Almost like a skinwalker. It could be like a skinwalker, possibly, or right. It's demonic. I mean, you can see that it's got demonic features.
Yes, very much demonic.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the one of the demons off of Constantine when he's down in hell.
Yeah,
but except for the long limbs and arms, that's what it reminds me of. And just so you know, I turned my camera off because I want you all watching me eat my snack. That's why I turned my camera off.
Well, you know, between all the spiritual warfare and solar flares and shifts in energy, you know, that's what's going on.
Yeah. exactly. Exactly. And these things showed up, and Fury insisted that I paint their portraits. Okay.
You should have seen a portrait of Scotty at that biker rally last weekend because look, all the people in the background.
Yeah, that could be very well me. And everybody that I interviewed still remembered the next day about me interviewing, and they absolutely loved it, dude. Just so y'all know.
Listen, do you
So,
remember your friend taking your phone?
Josh,
Yeah.
I do, but I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about. I'm like,
He became the host,
Yeah.
Scotty.
he was mad because Josh is always there when I do stupid stuff. For instance, the pole dance.
Yeah.
But we all got so drunk. Like I've seen Josh drunk there, but not drunk drunk. But he got drunk, and dude, he missed it all. He's like, "How did I miss?" I'm like, "You were drunk over there, and I was drunk over here." So, but everybody was mad at me because I drank the basically first gallon of apple pie by myself. I
Yeah,
literally did.
they were ready to kill you over that.
Yeah.
They
And
kept
then
saying you cannot have the moonshine anymore.
If
and
you
then I
only knew how
started
many
drinking the
phone
second
calls
one.
I got about Scotty the next day.
Oh yeah. What? You
Your
got phone
friend
calls
is
about me?
crazy.
Thank you, Eileen. And so Saturday, I was like, I ain't drinking. I'm not drinking at all. And we got done eating, and I got in the cooler to get a soda. And I'll be damned if there wasn't another gallon of apple pie. I opened that thing up, started drinking, and everybody's like, "No, put it down." I'm like, "Ugh." So that was me. This painting right there, that's me when they told me I can't have any more moonshine. I'm gonna you guys up.
Scotty, I can't. I can't. Oh Lord.
And I don't know if I'm repeating myself, so I apologize if I'm repeating what somebody else already asked. Do you do paranormal investigations as well? Are you
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
And where are you located?
I'm in Kimballton, Ohio. I used to
Okay.
live in Columbus, so now I'm in more rural area, and I'm like right in Salt Fork State Park. But I would go to Post Town, and I also do investigations remotely. So where I can remote view what's there and can astral travel. In fact, had somebody work with who wanted to see if I can replicate some of the phenomena the ghosts typically express or replicate the chills and the interaction and all that, something like a ghost or a spirit could. And so, without the paranormal investigator's knowledge, I was astral traveling and following this investigator. And I don't have to do anything special for it. It's just, I'm awake and it's just normal. I can talk to you, I can paint, and I can do everything else and still be at another location. And I was following him around and trying to tap him on the shoulder. And if we know what time it was, because I recorded what I was experiencing, that's time stamped. So, well, that's going on. I'm astral traveling. He says, "Do you see anybody with him?" And I see this woman with long brown hair and it's kind of curly. And he showed me a video that was about the same time. He was complaining about a cold spot on his shoulder. And she took the EMF meter, and this woman who was with him had long brown curly hair, took the EMF meter, put it on his shoulder, and the EMF meter went off. And we knew that was me because of the timing of it, and my objective was to touch his shoulder, and he got that cold spot. And I was behind him right at that moment when she held up the EMF meter, and I actually set it off.
Ironically, you mentioned Post Town because I've been there a few times. Have you physically been there?
Yes, I've physically been there a few times. I've been there. I've done the non-con almost every single year.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been there investigating a number of times, and I stayed there overnight a number of times. And one of the very first apparitions I saw there was on my first investigation. I was in the gymnasium, and I had my back leaning against that stage, and I was looking towards the entrance of the gym, and I kept seeing this mist like peek in, peek out, peek in, peek out. But every time the mist would peek in and peek out, it got more and more defined. And then it was a solid figure It looked like it was in a jumpsuit or a sweatsuit, jogging suit, but with just this misty face. And then it went back out and didn't come back in. So when it went back out, I immediately ran towards it to see if I could see anybody there. And there was, of course, nothing there. And that was when I did a very small sketch of that, what I'd seen. I'd seen like this thing crawling across the ceiling. And I was with a group of people when I saw that. And we had all seen this thing, like it looked like it had tentacles and it was kind of pulling itself along the ceiling. And when it got up to us, this small face came down out of the center of it, like it was an octopus or something. And this old man's face on it. It was
And where in the building did you see that?
That was in the cafeteria. We were actually sitting in the cafeteria where the kids would have sat, where they had all the, used to have all the restaurant, McDonald's seating there. And we were sitting in those seats and looking towards the, away from the boiler and towards the back where I guess that would be where the gym area is. And that's where we saw this thing come across the other way. The first night I was sitting in that place, we had gone downstairs with the paranormal group I was with because I had heard, and this is and I was the only person who heard it. Lunchtime, everybody to the lunchroom. I heard the lunch announcement. Come on down. Of course, all the wires are sticking out. There's nothing attached, and there's no speakers in operation, but I could hear the crackling of the speaker. The lunch announcement, and it was almost midnight. So we went down at midnight, cafeteria, and we were facing towards that small room where they would have handed out the trays. And I saw a black mass. And I wanted to be sure that I was really seeing a black mass. So I took my flashlight and I was, I'm going to walk right through it. If it's a black mass, I'm going to walk through it and I'm going to find out what it's made out of. So my friends are sitting at the table still, and I walk towards it, and I get into that little room, and it actually flows around me, and it blocked the windows, as it flew around. So it blocked out the light as it went around me. It was avoiding me. I had seen also people's clothing get tugged. I saw a woman and a man there walking, but they weren't side by side. They were like 6 feet apart, walking down the hallway on the third floor. And I see this woman's shirt just suddenly go out like this on the backside of her shirt. And she says, "You touched me." He's like, "How could I touch you? We're 6 feet away. My arms weren't that long." And we saw a group of shadow people. In the nurse's station, what I was picking up was that there was a nurse here who was extremely upset with the parents that they weren't giving their kids the medical care that they needed. And this would have been back in the 30s. And so these kids were coming to school with some very serious illnesses. And she's like, I'm not the doctor here. They need to get to see a doctor, and they need some serious medical attention. She was very upset. And I was relaying this to one of the paranormal investigators in the nursing station. Oh, he had a flashlight sitting out on a long table in that room. And it was sitting in the middle of the table. And when I encouraged him to talk about this, making that connection and say, "Are you upset with the parents not taking their kids to the doctor?" The flashlight started spinning. It started spinning clockwise. And then it slid to the end of the table and came to a dead stop.
Now, do you think that it was kids that actually attended that school, or do you think that it was the people that was in the train wreck that were brought there?
There are kids that did attend that school. There's a mix of people, and there's some that didn't attend the school at all. There are adults there also that, they may have attended the school as kids, and they're there as adult spirits. Some of them had died nearby. It just seems like a massive, it would be like, okay, this is my favorite landmark, and I'm going to go to it and meet with my other spirits in the town that I know. It's like a social group. You go there and you pass away and you go to what's familiar to you. And they communicate with me on a regular basis. So there's some of those. There are some people there that are there before the school were even built. Particularly, I kept picking up on kids. Like outside the school, when I did a reading on the outside the school, and it was in broad daylight. And when I walked to the back, suddenly everything was night for me, and I kept seeing these kids, and these kids looked like maybe they were from a much early. Well, they were from a much earlier era, but they were in black and white to be. And these kids looked ragged. They looked malnourished. They looked like they'd been starving, and they were bunched together back there. And I'm not convinced that they are connected to the school. I think they were there before the school was built, and just went through some really hard times. And
maybe it was a poorhouse or something like that. Maybe just some
Yeah.
kids or something,
Yeah.
Well, it kind of goes along with my theory that I was telling Chrissy about, Howard. I have a theory about Ohio and Indiana. So, just saying.
Yeah.
Once
Oh,
you,
I got a
once you cross
theory
the
about
river.
Ohio and Indiana too.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who's been to the Weep, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't heard really. I mean, it's within the last couple of months. I've been hearing a lot of stuff coming out from Ohio.
Ohio
I
is
haven't
kind
heard.
of serious.
I mean, I haven't heard anything from Ohio for. I mean, I knew it was a state, and that was it.
And then it
I
was
mean,
by
You
Indiana.
fell state with their arms. Oh.
I
And
I, I
that was
love you,
it.
Howard.
Oh.
And then all of a
Go.
sudden, I mean, you had the Ghost Sisters that's coming out of there, and now I met Angela, and I've heard a few stories and stuff that's coming out of there. So I mean, yeah, I'm looking into Ohio now and see what
Yeah,
they have to
Ohio.
offer.
Well, Mandy and Jennifer and all of them, the Ghost Sisters, they're out of Marion, but I mean, they've been on the scene for a long time. But Bad
Mhm.
Moon Paranormal is up in Ohio. There's some really good groups out of Ohio. And I mean, literally, once you're in Kentucky, once you cross the river, it's a whole nother feel. I mean, I don't care, even if you're not sensitive or highly sensitive, I don't care if you're a damn just totally don't believe in it. You feel the energy the minute
Mm,
it's a total, it just hits you. Whoosh.
yeah. As soon as you cross the river, and because these Liverpool, a lot of these, I grew up along these Liverpool. That's just down the street. It's not very far from the Bel Air House, a haunted location. And that whole town is haunted. It was at one time the pottery capital of the world, and that industry um, collapsed. They tried to put in the steel industry. Now there's a waste company there, and it's just that whole town collapsed economically, and it used to be a very prosperous town, and with that decline, and he talked to anybody there. In fact, there's a forum where I kind of reach out to my own East Liverpool friends and family and people that grew up there and moved elsewhere, and they talk about the hauntings that they would experience in their own homes, but they just thought nothing of it because it was kind of normal because the paranormal was so active in that town. In fact, one of my relatives, a cousin of mine that died in 1930, was spotted at the cemetery that I used to walk in a lot. And that's something that kind of hits you a little bit because I have a copy of his death certificate and his last photo that was ever taken of him before he passed. He was only 8 years old. Also, in that same cemetery, I had an uncle that was a volunteer, and he would cook for the cemetery workers. And he took this photograph. And in the background of the photograph, very clearly, you see a Civil War soldier standing there in a Union uniform. And he's just transparent, and he's white, and he's right in the Civil War section. So that place is actually very active, and it's right along the river, and the activity seems to follow the river quite a bit along the Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
I think the closer you are to the river, and the river itself, because I used to fish on the river as a kid. There used to be, since it used to be all like the clay capital of the world, the place is honeycombed with mines, and there used to be mine entrances that were still open that kids would kind of disappear and never be seen again. Some of those openings were still opening along the river, and whenever we go along the river, and just felt like there were presences along the river. There's so much that's been lost in there. There's a plane in there. They pulled up a lot of cars in there. There's a lot of history along that river, and it feels like a dark vibe. It feels like a haunted place, the river itself.
Oh, yeah, the river. I mean, and I have to take that back because Kentucky's involved in that too. Kentucky, West Virginia, Franklin, Kentucky is my spot. Howard, you haven't been up there yet, have you?
not to Ernie. No, I have not been up there to Ernie.
See, my
I
favorite
don't even call
spot
it. I don't
is
even call it Kentucky. I call it Ernie.
well, well, you need one place that you definitely need to check out is Octagon Hall. That is, that's my home away from home, and it's got it all. It's right there, ley lines. You got Bigfoot, you got UFOs, a ghost train, spirits. You don't know what you're gonna get at the hall, but it's just like
At
once
the
you get there, it's crazy.
and I had another cousin that drowned in the river. And there is Easter Falls also
I
was
can't
famous
go.
for like a small town murder. It was called the Tweed Murders, down on Dresden Avenue, and that location where a child and a pregnant woman and an adult man were all brutally killed in broad daylight in the afternoon. And little boys that saw this in the middle of the afternoon actually bumped into the person who did this, and he was severely traumatized. And the police still have not solved it. There is also a hotel in East Liverpool there where a lot of people passed away in that location, and it you get around the building, it feels really haunted, especially on the upper floors, because it used to be a lot of elderly people would stop in and they would just pass away upstairs. It's kind of like a hotel motel for them, and Pretty Boy Floyd was killed nearby. My grandfather actually viewed his
It
body.
almost sounds like a stop in morgue. Hey, come on in. Rent a room and you never go.
There's a poorhouse, or there was a poorhouse, and remains of a poorhouse there as well. And the interesting story even about that even though these people that were sent to the poorhouse didn't feel like they had any identity, the maintenance person who maintained the building, he inscribed their names on the wall so they would be remembered.
Now, have you been to the Ohio State Reformatory?
I have not been through there. I've been up in Mansfield. I did do an investigation for a haunted apartment up there in Mansfield. And boy, and I saw the church and that little cemetery in the main part of Mansfield, and it was just like, wow, this crowded with spirits, this place. And
Yeah,
that was
I hear the whole town's active. I haven't been yet, but I will be going very soon. Is why I asked if you had been.
yeah. I just been at that one little apartment. It's like, well, I got to go back here at some point, but that was interesting. And then the history I picked up on there was fascinating as well, because in the house or the apartment, mostly the house that had been converted into apartments, there was a judge that had died, and when he had died, he had gave me very specific. He answered a very specific question. It's like, who was president? And he said that Teddy Roosevelt had just been elected as president, but he had not yet been sworn in, which gave a very specific time frame that he was active, right? And then when he died, and the judge was explaining that he came from this Italian family, that there was a crime syndicate right there in town, and they started with the little kids. And he, as a judge, his job was to get the guys off. If they did something, if they got caught, he'd get them off. And he was basically a corrupt judge. We were able to verify his Italian heritage. He gave me his mother's name. I didn't know what I was writing. I just wrote down exactly the way he spelled it and the way he showed it to me. It was an actual legitimate name, Italian name, and that was something to find out. But we were able to get him to move over, and there was a crossover, and there was another spirit there, an 18-year-old boy who had died a little bit earlier, maybe 20, 30 years earlier, that time frame, maybe a little bit longer, when there had been a sawmill nearby. And what had happened was this boy, who's extremely arrogant, full of himself, was the nephew of the sawmill owner. And the man that had worked for the owner, who was a little older, in his 50s, had experience with sawmill, understood the business inside and out. He was expecting to be promoted to some sort of management position. Instead, he turned this business over to this nephew who knew nothing. And he got jealous and got the boy drunk and sawed him in half.
Dang.
Well, that'll do it.
Oh,
Yeah, that would definitely do it.
So when I did the portrait, I got the portrait of him, like, because I get all this, even before I get a location, I will sometimes experience the haunting. One of the things that he would do is he could cause hallucinations. It was his favorite thing to do. And while I was in my own apartment, now keep in mind, I was living in Columbus at this time. This is all the way in Mansfield. And I kept, I saw this giant fly in my drinking bottle. I'm like, oh, I must be seeing things. It's hot. I'm seeing things. I put this bottle down. Didn't think anything of it. I walked back into my apartment. Now, keep in mind, my apartment's immaculate. I don't have bugs in it. I never had an infestation issue. But all of a sudden in the kitchen, flies were pouring out of the light fixtures. Not out of a hole in the ceiling, out of the light fixtures. And jumping in and just filling my kitchen full of flies.
Damn.
And it was creepy, and I was like, "Oh gosh, you're just." I told him, I said, "Oh, now you're just making me mad now, just showing off." So I got all the spray I could. I was spraying all the flies, and I had to take a broom and a dustpan and was sweeping up and dumping the flies.
It sounds like you've been in Mississippi. That's all I'm saying.
When we got there, when I did the portrait of him was like a skeleton, but in half, and with a mist around it, because that's how I was seeing him. And then we got to the location, and she was saying that she was having the same sort of thing. She saw that she had to climb up and put something, store something high, and she saw like old wallpaper and things. And it was a completely different thing that she was seeing on the false ceiling. And she had called the police about some snooping or something like that. And they had looked up there and they said, "Ma'am, there's nothing but wiring up there." And she looked up and there was only wiring. She's like, "Well, what did I see earlier?" And that was interesting. I also did portrait of him, and she recognized him right away as an apparition she saw in the building. So he was moved on, him and the boy, and then also the killer of the boy. They all went together. Now,
when I said Mississippi, I want to apologize for that. Eileen Joan is from Mississippi. When I said it's not the whole state. It's just in Brandon and Pearl.
You know what? I need you to stop. On that note, it was good talking to y'all. I do have to run. I just wanted to tell y'all thank you so much for all the love you showed me today. I really appreciate it. It means
We
a
love
lot.
you, Barrett. We love you, Barrett.
I love y'all, and we're gonna talk again soon.
love
Have a
you.
good night,
Love
Barrett.
you.
Y'all have a good night.
Enjoy the
Happy
rest of your
birthday.
day.
I'm gonna try 49 sucks again, just to.
I can't with her.
Yeah.
I can't.
Angela, I don't know if you've heard this place. It's called Prospect Manor. It's in Trinway, Ohio. If you ever get a chance, I would definitely check that place out. It's a huge, beautiful mansion, but it was part of the Underground Railroad, so there's a lot of history there. It even has the signal tower all the way up that they would signal out to slaves who were coming up from the south to let them know it was safe to come in. And it's just an amazing place. I highly recommend it.
That's awesome. I would love to see that at the Prospect. And when I was at the Bel Air house, and I was picking up things on the Underground Railroad, and I got that a lot of slaves would pass away when they were trying to be on the Underground Railroad, and they would be journeying but sick, and they've been through so much, and they would often just die, and they couldn't just bury slaves out in the open. They had to be kind of sneaky about it and store them in the house or under the house for a while.
They didn't put them in tunnels. That's what I would have done. Put the bodies in tunnels, like a vault.
A catacomb or something like that.
Yeah.
And some houses did not have that option. Some people just didn't. So they just had to be kind of sly, and you'd have to get help, and then you have to be able to take a body out and bury that body.
Right.
And
So, and maybe you've already said it, and I'm sorry. I know I got sidetracked with my child earlier on, but so how long have you been an investigator?
my first investigation was probably when I was 6 years old. with the apparition in the yard that was adjacent to the cemetery, and I saw him and couldn't figure it out, and I did research, and they said there'd been no funerals, nothing for the past 3 months, and I saw him there. But when I started a paranormal group, or not started one, but was with a paranormal group, I guess, would it be like 7 or 8 years ago? And I've been doing investigations ever since, kind of and like helping other paranormal investigating groups at a location like at Post Town. And I would have occasionally get emails or messages from other investigators. Hey, can you help me at this location? What do you see here? And I'd send information on to them what I'm picking up. And
Sure.
so a lot of that. Now, as individually investigating, I do a lot of doing that remote viewing because it's non-invasive for the people. When I've been physical investigations, people have busy schedules. You show up and there's like 14 people in the house, and you're trying to do an investigation, right? And there's all these, it's crowded, and you're trying to
Right.
right, trying to run an investigation with all these people around, and I feel like I'm invading their space, and I don't want to do that. And
Sure.
I have their permission to, if it's better for me to do the remote viewing or astral travel, then I'd rather do that.
So then would you say that you're more so a psychic medium consult, or do you typically like to go? I mean, I know you can do the remote view. I understand that. But would you prefer to be on site and prefer to be part of the entire investigation, or just use your psychic connection?
I prefer to be on site if at all possible. And just because I feel like I might be able to pick up more, but it doesn't seem to make a difference because I still pick up a lot of things without actually physically being at a location. But I do like to be physically present because I like to walk, not just be inside the house or the building or whatever, but on the land. And because it's my experience, the issue could be with the land itself, and so you need to do almost like a methodical search of the area and walk around it.
Sure.
Several times to make sure you're picking everything up. I know that there was a house in Alliance that is definitely buried on a cemetery, and built a cemetery, I should say. And I kept picking up the energy of like human remains everywhere, but not like scattered everywhere. Like whoever maintained the cemetery didn't care to start with, and it just scattered remains everywhere. There were, which is sad to see. It wasn't that necessarily the haunting was connected to that. There was more that there was somebody using a Ouija board, and they brought this woman in, which I had to help cross over, and she was from the area, and that one was different because, well, not different. This is one of the ones were first time where I experienced a hostility from a human spirit, that they didn't want me there. And the whole way she was like yelling at me, even like the day before I knew it was going, she was like in my face, like right here. Look right, and it's like angry face, and I could see this trauma on one side of her face, and she was kind of like this bluish color. I could see she's from the 1940s, and she obviously head trauma was definitely the cause of death. And we got there to the location, and I pick her up, kind of going through the house, and I end up talking to her. She was very upset about being killed. She didn't even realize how long she'd been dead. And I asked her what year it was, and she told me it was 42. And I'm like, no, it's not 42. It's 2019 at that time. It's been quite a long time. It's like,
right.
It's like, damn. She was a rough talking lady. I'm not gonna lie. So talking to what I was hearing and saying what I was hearing her say, and then trying to repeat some of that. I'm like, you sure you want me to say this? She's gonna smoke and cuss all her whole life. But the person who killed her was still living at the time, well into his 90s. Elderly, extremely elderly man. I don't think he's alive now, but I could see that he was going to go to a not so good place after this. because he was completely unrepentant for what he did. He was never caught. He never found her. Um, and I talked to her and calmed her down enough where I said, "No, do you want me to bring an angel to you to help walk you over to this beautiful place?" And I just said the prayer. Um, but she was at one point extremely aggressive with me, and the other mediums that were with me were smelling jasmine really strong. And I'm like, okay, those are my guides, because when I was in heaven, I could smell. That was the smell that I remember. It's like that jasmine smell. It's like
Sure.
a sign from my guides. And I couldn't smell it. They could smell it. And then I started talking to her and kind of calming her down. I said, let's take a look at what you have to, what you could go to. And I saw this beautiful meadow just appear in the room. You see like this, like a doorway open up, and you see this beautiful meadow. And the angel came forward, welcomed her.
Hmm.
They walked off together, and she looked more and more beautiful as she kept going and closer to heaven. And she walked off, and you immensely felt the whole house just lighten up. That she was like the main source of the haunting. She actually picked up a, let's see, a 280-pound man standing against the wall. um, and the other,
Wow.
yeah, she was pretty intense. But is able to move her on. And then the owner's son came and talked to me, who had passed at age 18. And I kept seeing him in a light because I knew he was like an advanced soul to start with, even before he was born. It's like he knew he was going to go soon. And I saw the accident. I saw him, like he wasn't driving. He was the passenger side. I just saw it was dark. There was a tree. I knew there was an impact. I felt something rupture in my chest. I felt all this liquid go down my chest. And what his actual cause of death was, the vehicle hit the tree. The main artery in his heart, the aorta, just ruptured. And that's what I was feeling. And he was standing in the light, and he said, tell my mom, tell mama, actually he called her mom. He says, tell her that I'm still smiling and I'm not leaving till she's smiling too. I gave her his exact words. She says, I know that's a message from him, because when he was 8 years old, him and me made a promise to each other to always keep smiling. I know that was him.
Sure.
And he was talking in my ear as well at times where I couldn't understand, but when he was smiling and in the light, I could understand him perfectly.
Yeah.
And he even followed me home, which is interesting, to thank me for giving me that message to his mother.
Yeah.
Have you ever had attachments? I
I
mean, I'm a demonologist, so I mean I've dealt with attachments. Even if you do it as just a paranormal investigator, you get
yeah,
attachments every once in a while.
I had one entity, demonic entity that was in my house that stayed attached from me for near 30, 40 years. But she kept weakening and weakening, and I learned her original name before she fell from heaven. And I felt, okay, like I got her. she's weakening, she's weakening. I know what her name was, and I'm going to bring it up to her face the next time she tries to attack me or do anything. And I did, and finally she was gone. But yeah, I had a long attachment with her because she was just very, very determined, and finally got rid of her. Um, the other ones I think were attached were these native peoples that were on the land I'm sitting on now. So when we got this place, they made themselves known right away. They came to me in a dream, and they let me know they didn't like my parents because they didn't like what they were doing to the land, because the place had been overgrown, and so they had to clear everything out. I mean, you couldn't even see. You couldn't even see it was a cabin at the time. You couldn't even see the roof because it had so much overgrown grass and trees, and we had to rid a wood chipper, clear all that out of there. And one of them said to me, but we like you. You have your head on straight. And they gave me they gave me a name, they gave me a title, and they were very friendly towards me. They wanted to let me know they didn't like what was being done with the land. One day we came home, and all of the clothes and all the closets had been pulled out and thrown all over the floor in every room. And there was no sign of forced entry. We had situations where every flashlight that we had all came on all at once, even the ones in backpacks. And when I went home, when I went to the apartments, they would even make themselves known there. Phone kind of let me know about the situation with the land, and always keeping me updated. And they had what they explained to me in their culture. And when you pass, you volunteer to be earthbound to protect the land of their people. And that's what they were sharing with me. And I felt like they had developed this attachment to me in order to communicate. And eventually they just wandered off, like they distanced themselves and they're not as active now. We had a neighbor that purchased the land behind us, and he's bulldozed quite a bit of that land, of the trees and stuff like that. But yeah, I felt like they had they developed an attachment to me just so they could communicate very clearly what their position was and what they felt about me and how they felt the land was being treated in their importance of that land to them and their culture and who they really were.
Sure.
And
All right.
yes.
So let's see. We have about 9 minutes, well, 8 minutes left. So let's wrap this up. And what we could talk about is where can we find your drawings and your your pictures and stuff like that? Where can they purchase these things and where can they get a reading from?
But you can go to my Facebook page. My Facebook page is Angela Boley, Psychic Portrait Artist. And it's my last name, B is a boy, O as an ocean, L, E as an echo, Y as in Yankee, first name Angela. Some people get that spelling mixed up and pull up something completely different. But you can go to my Facebook page and just message me or leave a comment if you're interested in me doing a reading. You can also see on my portraits. And I am also working on illustrations for a book for my paranormal experiences as well. So I'm looking around for publishing contacts at this point to kind of help me with that as well. So if you know anybody in the publishing or editing, and if you can pass along their information to me, that would be awesome too.
Okay, that ain't a problem. Well, we appreciate you coming on and sharing your stories with us and your pictures and photo. I mean, your pictures. I don't say photos. Your pictures, and I found them quite interesting. And I'm still working on that for you too. So I mean, don't get discouraged. It's just taking a lot out of me right now. With that being said, tonight, I hate to say this, tonight is going to be my last night for about a month and a half. I'm taking about a month and a half hiatus. I'm taking a little break, but Paranormal Swamp Talk will still go on. Chrissy's going to be running it, and Scotty, and they know what needs to be done, and I am full. I don't know about full, but
Listen.
I trust them enough.
You might want to trust her. I don't know about me.
Well, you got all yours out of your system last Friday, so we're good.
Right?
If there's another biker rally, it certainly won't be on this show. It'll be on Unholy Trinity again.
Oh,
But
right.
you got a lot of views, Scotty. You got a lot of views.
I gotta see your biker rally because I'm really interested because my industry that I'm in, my day job is automotive and motorcycles and RVs. So, so I'm very interested in see what engine you got on it.
Where were you, Scotty? He was in where is it?
Wetzel. Wetzel. It's actually outside of Benwood, Ohio. So it's about 45 minutes from me. So
awesome.
It's pretty good, man. It's always a good time.
If you want to see Scotty drunk and in his drawers and stuff like that, you definitely want to watch that.
Swinging on a tent pole.
Yeah.
And I climbed that sucker too.
He did. He almost got all the way up to the top of that thing.
He did.
You were doing some serious pole dancing.
Good time.
But it was fun. I tell you that much. It was real fun.
Good.
Again, like if anybody wants to get a reading and a portrait done, I guess, of what Angela saw, just get in touch with her. And of course, she told you just go to her Facebook page and you'll be able to find her there. Like I said, I've talked to her a couple of times, and we've been actually the last couple of weeks we've been talking back and forth a little bit here and there. and I'm trying to help her out with something right now. And this gives me a little bit more time to do what I have to do around my house and take care of clients and stuff like that that I need to take care of. There's a lot of
Absolutely.
people put on hold right now. So yeah, this is giving me a little break that I really need.
Absolutely, brother.
But yeah, I'm definitely I want definitely get in touch with you again. I mean, well, of course, I'm in touch with you again, Angela. But I like that painting or that painting of that aquatic entity coming up, and I'm gonna talk to you about that. Might get that sign. Put it in my living room.
That would be
Or
awesome.
bring it with me when I do my shows and stuff.
Heck
Uh,
yeah.
Fear Fest, like there's another one, 2023. If that's another thing put out there, 2023. Fear Fest is going to be in New Orleans, and it's going to be downtown, right there on Canal Street. Uh, so yeah, we're going to have a lot of guest speakers and stuff like that, and we're going to be setting up times and dates soon. We're pushing for October of 2023, the early part, because I know a lot of paranormal investigators out there. They just that time of the year they make their money, for their groups and stuff like that. Uh, they go on different investigations and tours and stuff like that. So this is their time of the year. So I don't want to really take away from that. But
Right.
New Orleans is a haunted city, and you said that you bodies. New Orleans is built on bones. I can tell you that much right now. Uh, so that's what we're looking for. It's never been done in the city in New Orleans, so this will be something new and original. And we're looking at possibly doing it at the Marriott, which is a huge place, and then set up stuff in there. So, like I said, we'll have times, dates, prices, and all that coming soon. So,
Cool. I can't wait. I'm going to be there. One way or the other, I'm going to be there.
Chrissy's coming.
I'm not riding with Chrissy. Nope.
I did a remote viewing of New Orleans once, and I kept running into a lot of voodoo practitioners in spirit that were still practicing voodoo.
Well, I'm friends with. Matter of fact, I got a mambo. She's a mambo voodoo priestess. I know voodoo priests. I know vampires. You name it. I know them all down here. And jack of all trades. When you messing down here, you really deal with a lot of the paranormal element. So it's fun. It's fun. It's fun. Yeah, a lot of haunted things. It's not a rock you can't kick. There's not a story about it. That's for sure. In this state, anyway. So, and then that's what I don't understand. Nobody's never done a nobody's never done a fair fest or any type of convention here before, and it's a shame that the city has a lot to offer.
Yeah, it does.
Think of a lot of history, like layers of history.
Layers. Actually, the city's burned down twice. Chicago says, "Oh, we got the Great Fire." Well, yeah, we had two of them. So, on you, Chicago.
Hurricanes.
Hurricanes.
Yeah.
Last year,
Chicago's claim to fame, though, their fire was during the World's Fair. That's why it's so famous.
Well, yeah, but it makes it where famous. Yeah, we said was doing Mardi Gras. I don't know.
I'm just saying. I didn't say it was better.
They've had cholera outbreaks, yellow fever outbreaks. They had all kind of outbreaks. People were dying by the thousands and just piled up in the streets, stuff like that. It's just crazy. And then that's not including the crazy people here. So, yeah.
Very, very long history. I mean, going back to the French. The French was there before anybody else.
See, Angela, you can come down here and you can set up a booth. And you can actually do readings and do portraits right there. And, so they do that stuff in the French Quarter all the time. They just, not psychic readings, but they just do paintings. And it's just quick paintings. It takes them about maybe half hour. And people come in, pay it, and walk out, So I look into that. Might make you a few dollars on that. Never know. So, all right, guys. We appreciate it. Thank you very much, Miss Angela, for coming on, and we appreciate it. Scotty Too Hottie, thank you, brother.
Always,
Love you.
brother. Love you,
We
man.
love you. I can see that you can blindfold you with dental floss right now. Brother. I feel your pain. I feel your pain because I'm just about ready to go myself. And of course,
Right.
Miss Christy. Yeah. And with that being said, next week it'll be Chrissy and Scotty. That's
Over the
on the
show. Tune in. It's gonna be
Hell
fun.
yeah. Yeah, it is.
only show you'll see me on is probably the Petri dish, and that'll be it. That's another. I have three. I have four shows. I got the Petri dish. I got this show, and then I got the Unholy Trinity,
Oh,
and
wow.
then I produce and I'm the tech for Hey Boo, which is an all women's podcast
Yep.
show about the paranormal.
Oh, wow. I thought you were using Petri dish as a figure of speech, but it's actually a show that you're doing.
Yeah.
It's
So.
actually a show.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's two ways. It's a pun. That's what we're about. Pun. It's either the Petri dish is to grow bacteria in, or it's me. My last name is Petri, and I dish it out. It's all about that. All good.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So, all right, guys. We'll see y'all. I'll see y'all probably tomorrow night on the Petri dish, and I don't know what the hell we're doing on that one. I don't know. We might talk about ghost venereal disease.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that sounds like fun.
So with that being said, thank y'all, and y'all have a good evening.
Good night, everyone.